Good day and welcome to the next installment of our NSF Secure Analytics webinar series published to our YouTube channel and LinkedIn page. You can use the links below to subscribe and follow us. My name is Jason Wisnat. I serve as the lead for outreach and engagement for Secure Analytics, and I'll be your moderator today. Joining us are Dr. Kevin Gamache, Director of NSF Secure Analytics and Chief Research Security Officer at the Texas A&M University System. Welcome.
Thanks, Jason.
And also Dr. Glenn Tiffert, Deputy Director of NSF Secure Analytics and Distinguished Research Fellow at the Hoover Institution at Stanford University. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here, Jason.
Today's focus is on our second advisory, Iran's Science and Technology Ecosystem, a primer for research security professionals, which came out on September 30th. And Dr. Gamache and Dr. Tiffert are co-editors of this second issue, which can be found on the link at the bottom of this slide or at secure-analytics.org. So we want to dive right into the findings and key implications. One quick note, all publications are a collaboration between Texas A&M University and the Hoover Institution. And you can find these on our website at secure-analytics.org. This first question is going to be for Dr. Gamache. If you can tell us, the advisory notes that U.S. and Iran co-authored publications have surged by more than 250% over the past decade. What does this trend tell us about the evolving research relationship between the two countries, and what risks should U.S. institutions consider?
Well, the sharp rise in U.S.-Iran co-authored publications, as you mentioned, over 250% in the last decade, shows us that scientific collaboration can persist even in politically strained environments, but it's not without risk. Some Iranian co-authors are tied to sanctioned entities or military-linked institutions, and the U.S. funding has occasionally supported these partnerships. Universities need to be diligent, vigilant, in strengthening their due diligence and ensuring compliance to protect both national interests and the integrity of our research.
Thank you, Dr. Gamache. And this next question is for Dr. Tiffert. How significant is it that some Iranian co-authors appear on U.S. sanctions lists and that certain projects received U.S. funding? And then what steps should institutions take to ensure compliance and mitigate risk?
Well, I think it's very important for our funding institutions, our institutions of research, and our principal investigators to be aware that not every entity in Iran poses exactly the same risk profile. And there will be some co-authors, some potential collaborators, and some institutions that are on sanctions lists for reasons that they may pose a risk to the United States, our interests, and our values. And it's especially important when those designations come with compliance burdens. For example, the Department of Defense's NDAA Section 1286 list requires that research institutions respect the 1286 designations if they want to have contracts with the U.S. Department of Defense. So ensuring compliance is especially important. Institutions need to do the due diligence using the available resources to them to understand exactly who they might be contemplating doing research with in order to be in compliance, but also to ensure that their activities are consistent with their own values and risk preferences.
Thank you, Dr. Tiffert. And back to you, Dr. Gamache. On the third takeaway from this advisory, it highlights that some Iranian universities have direct ties to military and security organizations. Can you talk about how does this affiliation impact the integrity of international collaborations, and what should U.S. researchers watch for?
Sure. Iran's military-linked universities often embed defense-related research within civilian academic work. This makes it difficult to spot risks in international collaboration. These institutions are tightly aligned with regime priorities and may use partnerships to advance strategic technologies. U.S. researchers should look beyond surface affiliations, especially in fields like aerospace, cybersecurity, and nanotech, and conduct thorough due diligence to avoid inadvertently supporting military or sanctioned entities.
Thank you, Dr. Gamache. And back to you, Dr. Tiffert, on takeaway number 4 from the advisory. So what does it mean for U.S. partners when civilian academics in Iran are involved in military projects? And how can institutions detect and avoid inadvertent participation in these efforts?
Iran has an exceptional S&T ecosystem with brilliant scientists, but some of those civilian scientists do in fact front military programs and are the benign international face of programs that support things such as drone technology, ballistic missile weapons programs, nanotechnologies, and cybersecurity and cyber attack technologies. And so we want to be sure that when we work with one of Iran's brilliant scientists, that we have assurances that the investments in the research, that the products of the research that come out of the collaboration are used for purposes that are consistent, again, with our values and interests and not diverted to military programs. Now, NSF Secure Analytics is developing a platform to assist with the due diligence necessary to make those determinations. It will be called Argus AI, and we're going to be beta testing it very soon for the research community.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Tiffert. And back to you, Dr. Gamache. The advisory mentions large-scale cyber attacks targeting American universities between 2013 and 2017. What lessons should we draw from these incidents, and how can institutions strengthen their defenses today?
Iranian universities with direct ties to military and security organizations present unique challenges for international collaboration. These institutions often embed defense-related research within broader academic work, making it harder to detect potential risks. U.S. researchers should be alert to affiliations that aren't immediately obvious, especially when working in sensitive fields like nanotechnology, cybersecurity, or aerospace, as I mentioned earlier. Due diligence isn't just a compliance issue. It's essential to safeguarding the integrity of our research and protecting national interests.
Thank you, Dr. Gamache. And this last question will end with Dr. Tiffert. Beyond research security, the advisory raises human rights and duty of care issues for scholars traveling to Iran. What guidance would you offer to institutions and researchers considering such engagements?
Well, National Security Presidential Memorandum 33 includes a requirement for those institutions that receive $50 million or more in federal funding to include a foreign travel program as part of their research security program. And I think it's especially important for institutions to understand that while we want to collaborate as much as possible with all international partners, including Iran, Iran poses certain challenges with respect to duty of care. Foreign researchers traveling to Iran or dual nationals traveling to Iran to do research have in some instances been detained by Iranian security authorities and imprisoned, often for very long periods of time, not just in science and technology disciplines, but also in the social sciences. So it's especially important to offer training to researchers, not just faculty, but also at the graduate student and undergraduate student levels, about the potential risks and how to conduct themselves safely when they travel abroad to countries that pose particular duty of care concerns like Iran does. Now, the human rights considerations also attach not only to the treatment of individuals, but to the ways in which technologies that we might collaborate with Iran on are diverted to purposes such as state surveillance of dissent. And for example, US technologies related to computer vision have been deployed for enforcing the hijab rule against women in Iran. And so I think institutions and also researchers should think about the broader ramifications of their particular lines of research in an ecosystem like Iran's as they contemplate working with partners there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Tiffert. We appreciate that insight. And I want to thank you both for those insights across all the key takeaways from the #2 advisory from Secure Analytics. And that brings our time to a close. To go deeper into this publication, you can access the full advisory at the link on the screen at the very top. You'll also find additional research security resources on the Secure Analytics website and our LinkedIn page, and by subscribing to the free weekly Risk Media Bulletin. Before we go, we also want to be sure that we thank the entire Secure Analytics team who's not on the webinar today, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to help bring this advisory to fruition for the broader research security community. A big thank you to Dr. Gamache and Dr. Tiffert for joining us today. We appreciate your leadership and expertise in helping protect the research enterprise. Stay tuned for future advisories that continue to inform and safeguard our community. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.